with your hosts, Jimmy Thompson and Donato Bucci. They're covering the most current issues in sports from the 305 to the 412 and all the way to the West Coast. You can follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at JT and the Don, or email them at jtandthedon@gmail.com. Now take it away, guys.
Give them a shot to do what?
Welcome to the next episode of JT and the Don, presented by Give Us a Shot Network. I am the Don, Donato Bucci, and remember to subscribe to us on all of the major platforms and to subscribe to the Give Us a Shot Network YouTube channel. And remember, if you like what we do, leave us a 5-star review. Thank you to Nicole Thompson for the wonderful introduction, as always, and to our guy Mike Regina with the wonderful JT and the Don music. So let's get right into it. Let me welcome in everyone's favorite JT, Jimmy Thompson. How you feeling today?
Good, man. Good, man. I can't say to you what I really want to say to you, but I'll just say this. I respect your sports acumen. I'll just say that. The real ones know what that means. So, yeah, congrats. You ready to get started?
Appreciate it. Let's go.
All right, man. You know, no show's complete without starting with the NFL. Damn, we're already in week 10. Yo, this is going by too fast, man.
Yep.
Damn.
Sure is.
All right, so let's kick it off how we normally do. Week 10 in the books. One player, performance, or storyline you're not overreacting to.
You know, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. I mean, I'm not overreacting to it. The Cardinals.
Who's overreacting to Kyler Murray?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Like,
I know you're ready to jump on that.
Coming back from the ACL is overreaction.
Listen, all I'm saying is I'm not overreacting to it. Listen, I still think it's too soon for him. You know, he had a subpar game, 19 of 32 for 249 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. They beat the Falcons. It's like, all right, congrats, Arizona. You got to win. You probably ruined your draft spot, but good job. Now, I'm not saying he can't turn his career around, but like, I'm not overreacting to him winning his first game back. I think it is a feel-good story, and it's a great job by him to come back. But all I'm saying is, you know, pump the brakes here, because I think maybe he came back a little too soon, especially for the things that I'm sure he wants to do in his career and what Arizona needs him to do for them to be a successful organization. So all I'm saying is I'm not overreacting to it, even though great job by him, and it is great that he's able to come back so soon. But all I'm saying is I still think there's some lumps to be taken here, and part of it may be that recovery of his knee, right? We've seen that before with like De'Aaron King trying to come back too early and some running backs coming back too early. So not overreacting to it, but congrats to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I would say there's not really much to overreact to. Like, actually, there's one thing there is, but we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm pretty sure one of us will bring it up. But I'm going to be mean a little bit. I'm not going to overreact.
You be mean? Nah, never. This is
I'm not overreacting to the Steelers. I don't know how they're doing it. They're winning games like the Ohio State Buckeyes back in 2001. It's ugly. It's unheard of. It just, any other scenario, it just doesn't work, but they're winning. If anything, Mike Tomlin should be the coach of the year. I mean, he really should, because this team is just, you look at their record and you look at some of the teams they beat, and, you know, you look at right now, I think they're like the 6th seed, and I'm like, they have not looked like a playoff team at all this year, but they keep finding a way despite subpar performances from their quarterback, their offensive coordinator being a mess, and just it just looked like a middle of the road team. But here they are, one of the top teams record-wise in the AFC. I'm not shitting on them. I'm just like, the math doesn't math. Like, they're not out gaining opponents. They haven't had that one win where, like, yeah, they clearly blew somebody out, but here they are. But I'm just not overreacting.
So I'm a little confused in terms of when you're saying you're not overreacting, you mean like, hey, I'm expecting this, or I'm not overreacting to the fact that they're in the playoffs because you don't think they're that good?
That's the second one.
Okay.
I just don't think they're that good. But
Okay.
I mean, look,
listen, I hit the panic button. Did I not hit the panic button last week?
You did.
But then you look up and you see this and you're like, how are they doing this? And I'll tell you why. Again, Mike Tomlin doesn't get enough credit. And two, that defense, man, like that defense.
Getting Cam back was huge.
Creates turn. Like they did that without Minka. Think about that, JT. Oh. Like they figure out way. And listen, for all those people, and they're probably listening. That person is listening.
Well, first of all, if you're going to go on the soapbox for the Steelers, lean back and show them your P on your shirt so they know at least you really like, okay, there we go. We know you really go for Pittsburgh Spurs.
So the one of the people that always watches our shows, you know, early on for the last couple of years, he talks about TJ Watt, overrated, gets empty stats, wouldn't have paid him. And I'm always like, do you watch the game? Do you watch the impact he has? Right? Like, it's what Peyton Manning calls a game wrecker. He's a game wrecker. Like, all of a sudden, he can turn the game around, and you've seen it all year. And it's like, I think that's how they're doing it, JT. I hit the panic button last week.
Oh, you mean the guy that we both picked to win Defensive Player of the Year is playing like the Defensive Player of the Year? Who would have thought? Who would have thought we knew what we were talking about?
I'm not backing away from my panic because I'm still worried about them. But, man, you look up, like you just said, and to me, it's amazing, man. Like, that's Steeler football. That's what Mike Tomlin has been able to do. He's had some good teams and has failed, unfortunately, but he's had some average to below average teams, and he finds ways to be above average.
I'm not gonna lie. All the people that say Mike Tomlin should lose their job is like every year, like clockwork. He earned his keep this year, so I don't know what the complaints.
He's earned it the last 4 years.
We know that, but they don't know that. But let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. One storyline, player, or performance you are panicking on. I have a feeling we're going to say the same thing.
All right. Maybe this is the low-hanging fruit here, so I admit it if it is. But I think it's the Buffalo Bills franchise being the LA Chargers of the East Coast. That is what they are becoming. Listen, they had 4 Super Bowl losses in a row in the early 90s. And I think over the past 3 years, they've had the most turnovers along with the Bears. They just fired their OC. They are just one of those cursed organizations like we see with the San Diego /LA Chargers. They're up there with them. And listen, and this is maybe where you disagree. I don't believe they have enough talent for Josh Allen. His receivers are dropping passes that lead to interceptions, and he essentially has to do everything. They have no offensive identity, and that's their problem. And look, I know you're already batting your eyelashes. Listen, I'm
just listening to what you're saying.
They have no offensive identity. He needs to do so much, and this is where the turnovers come. They have no offensive line, no run game. We just spoke about the Steelers. You know what you can get out of the Steelers, whether they're good at it or not.
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
There you go. They are going to run the ball and be physical on both sides of the ball, and they'll figure it out in between the first and the fourth quarter to finish strong. Buffalo cannot do any of that. Stephon Diggs, for how great he is, he always wants out. He's always wanting a different solution instead of helping with the solution. And, you know, they're bringing in Latavius Murray, professional running back. But you got to let James Cook eat. That's your guy. Like, they have no offensive identity. And until Kincaid came in, that's all they had was Diggs. And so, yes, Josh Allen has all these turnovers because he has to do everything. You know what their offensive identity is? Here, Josh Allen, we don't know what we're doing on offense. So help us figure it out and play recess ball, and hopefully it goes well. And most of the time, 70% of the time it does, because Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback. And I heard today on ESPN, someone said, I wouldn't put him in the top 10 anymore. He's actually between like 10 and 16. What? I mean, what are we talking about here? So I'm panicking on the organization because look at their history. They did this, Jim Kelly couldn't get it done, and they all love him in Buffalo. So the quarterback will not be the issue. It's going to be all of the other basically coaching staff and organizational elements around Josh Allen that have failed him and have failed that city because they're just cursed like the Chargers, just like Justin Herbert.
I mean, it sounds like the issue with the Buffalo Bills is the Miami Hurricanes between Jim Kelly and Ken Dorsey. I mean, look. I'm not throwing my boys under the bus, which is why I wore this today. Of course, Ken Dorsey got fired today as OC, but I agree with you. I'm panicking on the Bills, and I know you guys look at me and like, oh, JT's always talking crazy. He's a hater. This is and that. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm glad you're coming over to this side.
I'm not coming over
because two things. I'm
not bashing Josh Allen.
I didn't say anything about Josh Allen yet.
Okay.
Damn, you're already rushing to defend your guy. Sure. But if Lamar Jackson was doing this, we'd be like, yeah, he ain't a top 10 quarterback. That's another conversation for another day. I said this last year. When they lost that home game against the Vikings, I was like, their Super Bowl hopes are dead. And you're like, nah, JT's overreacting. And I was like, I was right, because in that game, I saw they didn't have what it takes to take that next step. And then you go to this year. I said this on this show earlier this year. Maybe it was in the offseason or like very, very early on in the season. I agree with you on the San Diego Chargers comparison. Like, I said this to you on a show. I was like, the Bills are going to get to a certain point where if Josh Allen doesn't get it done, they're going to be like the Phillip Rivers Chargers, where amazing stats during the regular season, but when it comes to important games, it's just like, what happened? And that's exactly who the Bills are. And I agree with you. It's a mix of, maybe there's not enough talent around him. Maybe there's not an offensive identity. But let's not make a mistake about this. Josh Allen is a part of the problem. Like, the offensive identity or lack thereof isn't forcing him to lead the league in turnovers since he's been a starter.
It absolutely is. You even
saw it last night.
It absolutely is.
He threw an interception last night that he shouldn't have thrown, and then he threw the exact same pass to the exact same spot in the field where there were more defenders over there. And guess what? He didn't even have the excuse of Stephon Diggs being over there to force it to him. So some of this is on Josh Allen too. And you know what? You just have to accept the fact. You know what? If he's Phillip Rivers, there's nothing wrong with that. Great stats, great quarterback, just doesn't get it done at the highest level. So what? He won't be a Tom Brady. He could be a Phillip Rivers. But I do think it's a mix of all those things. I know they want to scapegoat Ken Dorsey, but I'm not going to say he's the absolute problem. But maybe the Buffalo Bills and the Josh Allen, being contenders is just overall run its course. Like, this is who they're going to be. 10-win team. And maybe they'll get it done, maybe they won't. But I'm panicking on them just because this is a worse situation for them. Their defense is banged up. Josh Allen continues to turn over the football. For some reason, they have the running backs, but they still continue not to run the ball. James Cook looked great last night when they gave him the opportunity, but they just don't want to run the ball. And the thing, we talked about this last year in offseason, if you're going to be this struggling, why not just force it to Stephon Diggs every play? Because I tell you what, Aaron Rodgers, if he was in this situation, he would do that with Devontae Adams, and that would improve your chances of winning these games. Maybe clean up some of the mistakes that Josh Allen is doing. And that's what Stephon Diggs is crying for. If we're going to be sorry, give me the ball. Give us a chance. And for some reason, it just doesn't happen. But I think we're both in agreement. It's true. I'm panicking on the Buffalo Bills. Their season might be done because now they're back in the division. We didn't even play this week, and the Patriots can get them.
Did you see their schedule, JT?
Oh, it's brutal.
I mean, it is.
This was supposed to be a get-right, give-me game.
It's a murderer's row, and we're not overreacting. I think they got Philly in there. They got like Kansas City in there. They got the Dolphins. They got the Jets again, who they lost to. It's crazy. I disagree a little bit with the Rivers comparison, and this is why. He never had an Antonio Gates. He doesn't have a LaDainian Tomlinson.
His name is Kincaid. Kincaid is in this Gates.
Well, he's 9 games into it, but he doesn't have a Gates.
Does he have 9 games into his career value in Dynasty right now?
He doesn't have a LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Famer, right? Now, you can say, well, what about the San Diego, back in the day, the San Diego receivers? He had some pretty good ones. And if I'm not mistaken, he had Keenan Allen for a good chunk of his career on the back end too, Phillip Rivers. So let's not act like Phillip Rivers didn't have weapons. He had way more than what Josh Allen's weapons are. You take Diggs off this team.
Diggs is as good or better than any of those weapons he's had. Now I'll give you Antonio
but
Gates.
See, I disagree. I disagree. There is no way. Hold on. There is no way. Hold on.
Because Philip Rivers,
you had your time.
Charger story is over.
You made your comparison. Let me do it. There is no way you talk to any football guy and they say, "Give me Diggs over LaDainian Tomlinson." You'd be nuts. Come on, even you wouldn't.
I'm not saying he's better. I was talking about the receivers. You brought up Keenan Allen.
No.
I said,
you said anyone
I
just mentioned.
As good or better.
You said anyone I just mentioned. Antonio Gates mismatch at tight end. Ain't no way Diggs is as good as LaDainian.
He's a Hall of Famer. I get it. It's
okay.
the only reason you're able to not make the full comparison. It's not an apples and oranges comparison.
Diggs will struggle
because those teams' story is already done.
So
I get what you're saying.
So next one. Go ahead. You're wrong. You have to talk over me. Go ahead. I know that's when you're wrong.
Whatever the network wants to say. I know we got a gag order to talk. You put them up.
Go to
I
our
know we got a gag order that we can't talk about the Bills. But I'm sorry.
Let's go to our comments. Can you at least let the people speak? Because no one wants to hear you anymore. Let the fans, because they're way more knowledgeable than you. My guy Scotty, Vikings are the Bills Chargers of the middle of the country. That's a great point too, talking about analogies and comparison. And then the other one, Jason Curtis, my TJ Watt shout out was for Jason Curtis. Not sure if he got it because he always dogged TJ Watt until this year. But Tomlin coaches for a high floor instead of a high ceiling. I disagree a little bit with that comment because granted, when he did have the killer bees with Roethlisberger, AB, and Le'Veon Bell, there was a disappointment. But there's not a high ceiling when you've got Duck Hodges as your quarterback. There's not a very high ceiling when you have no offensive line and Kenny Pickett as your quarterback. And I know that's going to rub a lot of
high ceiling fans with Matt Canada.
And that's the other thing. I know it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way at Pitt because I said Kenny Pickett gives you not as high of a ceiling, but it's true. For the Steelers to win a Super Bowl, they are going to need a 2006 type team that helped Ben win a Super Bowl. Kenny Pickett will never be the 2009 Ben Roethlisberger that helped the Steelers win a Super Bowl against Arizona in the final minutes. Sorry, Steelers.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett ain't throwing that end zone throw to Santonio Holmes.
No way. All
right, you ready to play a check down game?
Yep, let's go.
All right, check down game. We're going to give you two options. You tell us which one fits the question that we're asking. So we're going to start this off. Ooh, interesting. More likely that Trevor Lawrence is a bust or Justin Herbert is not elite.
So bust is too strong of a word. Neither one is more likely because Trevor Lawrence will not be a bust.
Because you know what we're saying by that. Obviously it's early in his career, but we're also looking at his expectations.
You know what? I love Justin Herbert, but because his franchise is cursed, unless he leaves the Chargers, he will not be elite. He will not be seen as elite because of the Chargers and their cursed franchise. So Justin Herbert, let me be your agent. We'll get you out of LA real quick, maybe to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he'll fire you real quick. I gotta disagree. I think it's that Trevor Lawrence is a bust, and it's because of the expectations he had coming into the NFL. He's supposed to be a can't-miss generational prospect, and just look at that draft class that he came in with. Just from the quarterback perspective, all the quarterbacks have underperformed. But the difference is all those other quarterbacks, they hear it from the fans, they hear it from the media, from Matt Jones to Trey Lance. Like everyone is generally saying that those guys aren't good. What has Trevor Lawrence done? He's looked horrible for 2 years. We gave him a pass for the Urban Meyer situation, but he was a Super Bowl winning coach. He got good weapons. He's just not doing it. Like, I don't know what it is, but Trevor Lawrence is not getting it done. And we just talked about CJ Stroud on the last show. He's winning these games, doesn't have the weapons. They're in the same division. CJ Stroud making it look easy, and Trevor Lawrence is making it look difficult as hell. He has played horribly. So I'm saying that it's more likely he's a bust from the perspective of we thought this guy was the next it guy. We thought he was going to be elite by now. We thought he was going to be in that Joe Burrow class at least, and he's not looking anywhere near that. Like he is closer to Justin Fields than he is to Joe Burrow. And I think that's what the Jags and NFL fans thought they were getting when Trevor Lawrence came into the league. Like, he's not looking like a can't-miss generational prospect, so I'm going with him.
Well,
next one.
See, I think where you're wrong is the definition of bust. If you ask most people,
I mean, he ain't
say,
Jamarcus
hold
Russell.
on.
Yes.
But see, that's your problem. That's why I said it's too strong a word. You should have worded it better.
No.
Maybe saying Trevor Lawrence. How is that a bust?
But why can't?
Let me ask you this. If he has as long of a career as Kirk Cousins and has similar stats at the end of the day, is he a bust?
Bust, because Kirk Cousins was a 4th-round pick.
But see,
nobody was tanking for Cousins. They were tanking for
But that doesn't
Trevor.
matter because in the eyes
Yes, it does.
of everyone else, not named JT.
Is Jamarcus Russell a bust? Yes, but guess what? Jamarcus Russell didn't come into the league with nearly the expectations
matter.
of.
He was the number one
So
overall
context
pick.
doesn't matter now. Context doesn't matter.
It does.
So everybody just comes into the league equal. Context doesn't matter.
No,
Nobody gave a damn about Jamarcus Russell when he came into the league.
If you ever
the Raiders made a
tonight,
shitty pick.
If you
Everybody thought Trevor Lawrence was can't miss. And
okay,
missed.
go ahead. Finish on your wrong rant. Are you done?
How am I wrong?
I would love to explain myself, but you keep speaking over me. So I'll wait.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
You love Trevor Lawrence.
Go ahead. Mute yourself. My reasoning is, yes, you're right. You need to look at everything in context, right? The expectations coming in do matter. But when you talk about a bust, you're talking about everyone else's opinion except yours views it as the Jamarcus Russells, the Ryan Leafs, guys like that, right? The Cade McNowns, the Achilles Smiths. If Trevor Lawrence lasts 10 years in the league, starts 9 or 10 of those, and puts up similar to number to Kirk Cousins, you can say he didn't live up to expectations, but that's not a bust, JT. That's a hell of an NFL career.
For him,
no
it
way.
is.
No
it
way.
Is. You just named a bunch of guys that, yes, were bust, but none of them had the expectations on them coming into the league that Trevor Lawrence had.
Well, forget you were a little too young. Every one of those guys
probably got picked by the wrong team too high. Everybody in the league, if you go back, would have picked Trevor Lawrence first.
I'm old enough to know Ryan Leaf came with so much hype, JT, that people considered. He's so wrong,
he making fun of his age.
Think about this. People considered he should be picked over Peyton Manning. So you want to talk about hype? Come on. Like, don't say that he came in with more hype than Leaf. All right. And Jason, listen, JT's got me all fired up, so I'm going to take a shot at you too. He goes 10-7 no matter what. He went 13-3 the year they lost to Jacksonville. It's not his fault Le'Veon Bell decides to show up late for the pregame. It's not his fault.
But we're still talking about the Steelers.
Yes, it's not his fault. You've got me fired up, and now everyone's in the way. Everyone's in the way.
More likely, Tony Pollard is washed or Derek Carr is washed.
Man, it's neither. It's neither. How can you say Tony Pollard is washed? Talk about a guy coming back too early from an injury.
The media is saying it.
He came back way too early. He came back way too early from an injury. Last game of the year, gets hurt, comes back, doesn't even miss week 1, has over 100 yards week 1. He'll be fine next year. And then you look at Carr. His stats are better this year than they were last year, and they're similar to his 2019 season when he went for over 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 8 picks. He's on that trajectory that he had in 2019 this season. So how is that washed? And the dude's only 32. Like, that's a terrible question in there. I don't know why they let you put it in there.
Because this is what people are saying. So that's why they want us to.
That's what I'm saying.
You
are wrong.
You always think these questions are about what I think. No, this is what people are saying. I agree with you. I don't think either of them are washed, but if I had to pick one that's closer to being washed, I got to go with Tony Pollard. It's because of the position he plays. And you're right. He came back too soon from that bad leg injury, and they're not using him the way they used him with the previous coaching staff, mainly Kellen Moore. So I would say he's washed. He reminds me of those weird few years where the Saints were using Alvin Kamara as just like a guy they just handed the ball to and he runs up the middle. That's not his game.
But that doesn't mean he's washed.
But the thing is, I will say this. If I had to pick why I say he's closer to being washed it's just a running back position. Like, he doesn't have time to get healthy. Like, while he's still trying to get healthy, he's still taking all these unnecessary carries that don't fit his game. And let's be real, the Cowboys have played some bad teams where, like, a guy like Pollard, if his talent, should have some get-right games. And he just hasn't had them. Like, they just played the Giants. Everybody went off in that game except Pollard. And I don't know if it's because he's not fully healed from the injury, but if I got to pick one that's closer to wash, it's him. He just hasn't shown it. Derek Carr, you made the point. Basically, he looks like the guy with the Raiders, so he looks good. More likely, Aaron Rodgers comes back this season, or Arthur Smith gets fired.
Well, to me, this is an easy one. More likely, Arthur Smith gets fired, and I'm not saying he will get fired. Okay, I'm not, and I don't want to see him get fired. But Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back. He just keeps saying this.
Do we really know that, though?
He keeps saying it to be relevant. That's his ego talking.
I gotta believe him, man.
I don't know what
mushrooms he got in that cabinet. You don't know what he got in there.
Oh my goodness.
Whatever's in that cabinet is not FDA approved, so anything can happen.
Exactly, and he'll fail a drug test if they test him.
I see where you're coming from, but I gotta say more likely Aaron Rodgers comes back for the simple reason that the Falcons.
My God, you're on the same mushroom.
The Falcons already came out and
you're
said
on the same mushroom.
They are not firing Smith. He'll be back next year, unless it seems as if the players are tuning him out. And I think the guys who are talented on the team are too young to have that kind of confidence to oust the coach. This ain't the NBA. So I mean, by process of elimination, I got to say Aaron Rodgers comes back. All the doctors online say it's a possibility that he does. So that's who I'm going with. Cool with that, or you got a rebuttal?
No rebuttal. You said everything when you said all the doctors online. That's your source. Great.
They're not quacks. They're real
doctors. I won that one.
All right, let's go. Relax or panic. DK Metcalf as a wide receiver 1.
I'm going to say relax. He's got the skills, the talent, and the drive for it. Listen, we know the way Seattle is. They've always been this team. They're going to run the ball on 3rd and long. That's Pete Carroll's game in the NFL, and he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He's still, when we talk about wide receiver 1, he's one of those guys, regardless of what stats he puts up. So I say relax. If you want to panic on something, panic on that Seattle offense. Because they don't get him the ball. They don't get DK the ball.
I gotta disagree with you, man. I'm panicking because we're talking about not a good receiver in the league. We're talking about wide receiver 1. That means we're putting him up there top 10. That's what I think of when I think of wide receiver 1. He ain't it. I know we love the myth of DK, this big physical freak. I know he got muscles and shit. You like that? And he can track down DBs 100 yards away. But all that's not what you need to play receiver. Bro, he's only had 2,000-yard receiving seasons since he's been in the league. It has not been great. I think we've fallen in love with the mystique of DK and yeah, he's so talented, but he's just not getting it done at a wide receiver 1 level. He's probably closer to a high upside, very, gifted wide receiver 2 than a guy that I'm hey, can he be my guy? And I just let him lose so he can do it no matter what. Maybe he needs to switch teams, but on Seattle, he's definitely not a wide receiver 1. Him and Tyler Lockett are basically even, in my opinion. And now you got this rookie JSN, and they're further complicating shit. So DK, outside of maybe a 6-game stretch 2 years ago, has not looked like the wide receiver 1 to me. So I disagree with you on that. Oh, I know you're gonna love this. Relax or panic. Doug Peterson.
Panic. Signs of Philly all over again.
Super Bowl? Nah, they ain't going.
No, the years after the Super Bowl, right?
The fallout.
He couldn't get Carson Wentz right. And now Trevor has a great year. So we know he has the talent. We know he has the capability. And now you follow it up with this. And they looked unprepared. They did not look ready. They did not look hyped for the 49ers game. I'm starting to get worried. Now, their record is still good. But, man, I don't know in that tough AFC if they can get through it playing the way they did against the 49ers. And that falls on Doug Peterson. You've got to get your team ready. Listen, I would say panic. I'm not totally pressing the button, but if I had to pick right now, I would say panic because the AFC is tough. And after last week's game, we'll see if he can turn it around. That may have been their one way or another. That was a season-defining game for them.
Oh, that was a season-defining ass whooping. Yeah, I agree.
Well, no, it's either going to propel them and show them, hey, we've got to be able to come focused every week in every game, or two, they're going to fall off the wagon. One of the two is going to happen.
I'm going to say relax just because he does have a Super Bowl, and I know that he's done more with less at the quarterback position, but I think he's got to find a way to find out what's wrong with Trevor Lawrence, because that's what's essentially going to unlock this team, this offense. Like, it's him. Like, he got all these weapons, and I don't know what's going on with him. So Doug Peterson's got enough cachet with me. I'm not panicking yet. I'm going to say relax. They get it figured out, and he can fix this quarterback that maybe Urban Meyer just broke beyond repair. Relax or panic. Ooh, another coach, Robert Saleh.
Oh, relax. Are you kidding me? I can't even believe. Are people talking about this in social media? Is that
yes,
why you
they
put
are.
it in? Wow. Well, I'll tell you what.
Man, you act like I'm just pulling this shit out of thin air. Like, yes, they are panicking on Robert.
Stuff that you
people
like.
are panicking on Robert Saleh and Zach Wilson every week until Aaron Rodgers comes back.
This is why
this is the world we live in. What
this is why I stay off of social media, because this is a waste of my time.
The shit is everywhere.
This is a waste of my time. It's relax. They have no Aaron Rodgers, and they're playing 500 ball. They're beating teams like the Buffalo Bills. They're beating teams like the Eagles. I mean, the Jets defense is one of the best in the league, and he's a defensive guy. We always say it. Like, at least be good.
If you're a coach, be good on your side.
Yeah, be good on your side of the ball, and he's doing it. Like, he has righted the ship after the Rodgers injury, and he's putting together a Tomlin type coaching job. Literally no offense. And they're 500.
They run it. They run in that old Chicago Bears. Give it to Walter Payton offense. I get it. I'm gonna say relax for everything you just said. Like, the defense is elite, and he's doing that right. And I'm not even. I know people want to harp on the offense and Zach Wilson. I'm not even sure that this whole who can play quarterback for them is even his decision. Like, I'm not even sure he has any say in that. So that makes it even more impressive. Like, you're being hamstrung by Aaron Rodgers in the front office on who can play quarterback for your team. And you're like, you know what? All right, I'm going to suck it up and just make the greatest defenses. Rex Ryan's been there. So I'm going to say I'm going to relax on him because I do think he's a good coach. I just think they've been unfortunate. All right, next one. I know you love this. Jackpot or Fool's Gold. Oh, your boy. Sam Howell is a legit QB1.
Couldn't wait.
Let me mute myself so you can brag for 30 minutes.
There we go. Couldn't wait for this all day. Let me get the stats out here. All right, listen. That's jackpot. I mean, Washington messed up once with Kirk Cousins. I'm sure they're going to mess up with Sam Howell again. But JT, you go look at his stats. Almost 2,800 yards so far through 10 games. So he's averaging about 278 yards a game, 17 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. This is his first year starting full time. Only 9 interceptions, and he's thrown 1.7 touchdowns a game. That's amazing. I mean, to do this in Washington, in that division with the Eagles and Cowboys defense, to me, that is amazing. He is a legit QB1, even if you don't think he is this year. If they hang on to him and keep building around him like they have with McLaurin, Dotson, the running back by committee, he will be a top 10 quarterback by the end of next year if they continue to do the right things for him. And Bieniemy's his OC. This is jackpot. But Washington will find a way.
They'll find a way to go get some other quarterback. Look, man, I told you Sam Howell was nice last year when we did our dynasty draft, and I was like, I think he's going to be good, and I didn't have enough faith to see the process through, and I lost that on that trade. But for everything you said, I don't even need to listen to that, because you know why it's a jackpot? Because PFF tells us it's a jackpot. Here's the only thing that matters to me. This dude leads the league in big-time throws. Do you know how insane that is? He is one of 2 second-year quarterbacks in the last decade to do that. Do you know who the other one is?
Mahomes.
Exactly. So he's in the class with Mahomes. Shout out to Eric Bieniemy, by the way. I think Kansas City would like to have him back because every time he coached new quarterbacks, they just tear the league apart. But you know how hard that is for a guy that didn't start any games last year to lead the league in big-time throws? That is an MVP winning stat that only Patrick Mahomes can do as a second-year guy. Like, it's insane. He's a QB1. And I agree with you. Washington will find a way to fuck this up. And I don't understand why you would move off of him. You got a quarterback He fits in the system of this guy, Bieniemy, that you just brought in, and it's working. Like, congrats. You found your guy after round 4. Like, let's celebrate, Washington. You got a rare win. So I agree with you. It's jackpot. Sam Howell is QB1.
Nice. And before we go on, Jason Curtis, you're not going to win this.
This.
He's not going to win this battle. He says Tomlin type coaching job.
Y'all can have a side chat.
I'm gonna finish it right now. Tomlin type coaching job there, 500 exactly. Yeah, you missed the whole point. Zach Wilson's the quarterback. Kenny Pickett's the quarterback. Go look at what Arthur Smith is doing with 2 average to below average quarterbacks. He's not doing what Saleh and Mike Tomlin are doing. Look at Daboll, supposedly a great offensive genius. Look what he's doing with Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito. 1 win. So that is why Tomlin should definitely be up there for Coach of the Year. All right, I won that battle too with the fan. Sorry, got to do that to the fans sometimes.
No, we're fighting fans now.
You got to put them in their place sometimes.
Jackpot or Fool's Gold? Lions as Super Bowl contenders.
Oh, that's jackpot. Come on. They're 7-2. They just beat the cursed Chargers, right?
On the road.
On the road. Well, it was more of a home game for Detroit anyway. You know, there's a difference between Detroit and Detroit. In Detroit, they say it Detroit, not Detroit.
Okay,
Did you know that?
We'll chase that going forward.
Detroit. It's Detroit. Not Detroit. It's Detroit.
It's whatever I called it.
All right. So, listen, that's jackpot. 7-2. Their division leaders should win their division easily at this point. And let me tell you something. The NFC, you know, there's some tough teams in there with the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. But you figure if Detroit keeps doing what they're doing, they may only have to beat one of those teams, JT. Maybe only one, at most 2. So, and one of those could be at home. So, Super Bowl contenders, I think that's jackpot. If you say fool's gold, the only reason why you would say it is either
– Can you let me answer?
No, I'm saying as a fan, you either haven't been watching and you think it's the old Lions, or 2, you don't believe that they'll actually win it. Like, when I say contender, what I mean is they have a shot. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but by contender, I'm defining it meaning they have a shot and it's realistic.
If I'm saying contender, I mean they're a top 3 team in the NFC, and they are. So it is jackpot. And I don't even care that they went on the road to beat the Chargers, because that's an automatic win because the Chargers will beat themselves. But quietly, the Lions are doing something very unique that always serves Super Bowl winning teams well. They can run the football, and they can run the football with multiple guys. They finally found a way to get David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs going in the same game. And it's ridiculous. It's unlocking this offense. Can you imagine having to go play a team that has 2 elite running backs, an elite receiver, an elite tight end, and Jared Goff with all the weapons in the world behind the best offensive line in the league, and they can just pick you apart? Like, this Lions team is dangerous. And quietly, nobody wants to talk about it. Their defense has played much better this year. Like, I know they just had a shootout, but the Chargers have weapons too. This Detroit Lions defense has been really good most of the year. They're one of those complete teams that we're just not talking about just strictly because of, all-time bias. It's the Lions. We just don't trust them. But I agree, jackpot. They're Super Bowl contenders until further notice. Ooh, jackpot or fool's gold? Dak Prescott as an MVP candidate.
I'm going to go fool's gold because Vegas says so. But he's plus 4,000, JT. That means you bet 100 and he wins it. You get 4,000. Those are very long. Yeah. Those are long odds.
They're not giving Dak that MVP, so I wouldn't even go play around.
But what I would say is, if you have, $50 lying around, it may be worth to throw on him just in case he does it. Because those are good odds. That's good value. What's that?
Is this your way of asking me to chip in $50? Like, you do 50, I do 50?
Nah. But so if you have some money lying around, that's good value. But based on that, I think it's fool's gold. Plus, you look at the last 3 games, right? He's thrown 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So for the year, he has 17 touchdowns, 6 picks. But you know what he did the other, 6 or 7 games? 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's only because of these last 3 games. Now, they faced some good teams with the Eagles, but it's only because of these last 3 games that he's even being considered. So there's going to be, and listen, I'm a Dak fan, but there's going to be that Dak regression where he's going to have a bad game or two. One of them will be on national television, and all of a sudden his MVP stock goes down. So
I want to say it's fool's gold, but I mean, I want to give the guy props, man. Like, he's outplaying shitty coaching with no running game. And it's insane. And I think it's not fair to say he's not one, and then everyone else in the same breath, everyone also wants to say CJ Stroud is one. It's like, look, like, winning is winning, stats is stats. But I think sometimes a performance could taint or win you an MVP award. And I think the 49ers game on national television is going to be that thing that keeps him from winning the MVP. The Vegas odds tell you that's what it is.
But JT, we did this last week. So wouldn't CD Lamb be the more realistic MVP on that team?
Well, that's the case for and against Dak. It's like no quarterbacks are really playing at that MVP level. So every quarterback essentially has a chance, but the skill guys are playing better. Like, that's why I said it's fool's gold.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Making sure I understood. All right. So is that all for the NFL?
That's all.
All right.
I turn it over to you, old boss, master of the show.
Whoa. No. Terrible description.
It's his show. He's the boss. I'm turning it over to you. You ready to get all your questions right? Go ahead.
I mean, you basically tell me what to write, though. I don't understand why.
You write what you want.
You're the.
I have an idea in my head, and it never manifests itself on paper after I send it over to you.
Wow. All right, so NBA fast break. We played the NFL check down game. Let's go NBA fast break. More concerning is the first question: James Harden's Clippers or the Charlotte Hornets?
Man, it's got to be. You know how hard it has to be more concerning than the Hornets. Like, they got guys with real legal issues. Like, 3 or 4 of their guys should be in jail, or they might be going to jail. And I'm more concerned about the Clippers. Like, this is the worst fear imaginable. James Harden comes to your franchise, wrecks it. He only been there 5 games, and they haven't won out a damn near one of them. Like, everybody's game is dropping. James Harden is doing James Harden things. Because he's there, that's less opportunities for Paul George and Kawhi. And then I never thought I'd say it, but maybe Russell Westbrook needs to be starting over him. Like, just those 4 guys together not winning games is enough to be concerning. This is the most concerning situation in sports. James Harden's Clippers.
So, it obviously is. And it's James Harden's Clippers because said it when the trade happened. He is just clubhouse poison. I mean, he's not going to help your team at all. They're both, 3-6, but at least the Hornets are a young team, right?
And they've had injuries.
And exactly. They've had not only the legal issue with Miles Bridges, but they've had injuries. And I think that they'll get it right in Charlotte. But the Clippers is like, where are you going at this point? Like, at least Charlotte has a future. Right? If
They're
this
going
doesn't
to a farewell tour,
if
that's what's about to happen.
The Clippers, you're saying, yes. It's like if this doesn't work out in the next 3 to 4 months, it could be a disaster.
But
and
this will cost people jobs,
right?
And we will end up seeing certain people on TV talking about the games rather than coaching
or being a GM. Yep. So I think we both agree the easy answer is James Harden's Clippers. All right. So more concerning, talented teams being average to middle of the pack. Pelicans or the Cavs?
The Cavs. It is because I think people last year especially thought they could make a run in the East, and I just don't understand what's the deal with them. I mean, they might have like on paper, one of the best starting 5s in the league with Mobley, Allen, your guy who you love, and you got Donovan Mitchell and Garland in the front court. Like, I don't understand like how this team is not better. The Pelicans, I get why. Zion don't want to be there. He's not available. And the rest of the guys are always hurt. McCollum's out right now. Ingram's always hurt. So I understand why they're disappointing. But the Cavs, I have no reason why. Like why aren't these guys, why aren't they the number 1 team in the East? Like, they have the talent. So it's either those guys are overrated or there's something else I'm not seeing. But I'm more concerned about the Cavs because eventually this window is going to close because I think Mitchell's going to be gone at some point this year or next year. and they're probably gonna trade Jared Allen at some point. So the window for these four staying together is much, much closer to being closed.
But you just answered it. You said Zion doesn't want to be there. Pelicans are
I
always
don't consider them serious though.
But that is why it's more concerning. Like
Zion hasn't played since he got there.
But
so
again,
why am I concerned?
But that's exactly it, is that they're both 4-6. Who would you rather be? I'd rather be the Cavs. So more concerning are the Pelicans. And there's another reason why, JT. They're 10th right now at 4-6. If the season were to end today, Warriors are 7, Lakers are 8, Suns are 9. That's the play-in tournament. Who are they beating of those three? None of them. They're in trouble. And the reason why it's not the Cavs, you laugh because we're only 10 games in. Exactly. Cleveland has all this time to make it up. I don't see where the Pelicans get any better because Brandon Ingram's always injured. Zion's either injured or
before we bash Ingram.
Well, it's too late to make your roster moves.
He's playing already.
So you also have, Zion either injured or doesn't want to be there. Like the future doesn't look as good. The Cavs window will be open because of guys like Mobley, even if Mitchell isn't there, because of guys like Mobley and Darius Garland. Like they're young, they'll be able to make moves to help those young pieces.
I think that quartet is a lot closer to being broken up than people think or want to admit. So I think that window's going to close real soon. But they're both equally disappointing.
Disappointing, but more concerning is the Pelicans still. More impressive, the Rockets or the Pacers turnaround?
I'm not gonna lie, man. It's the Pacers. Because we know how bad the Pacers have been. They have been horrible. Like, this is a tanking franchise. The Houston Rockets, they always had the talent. I think it was just more of a coaching issue. And whenever the front office was going to flip that switch to be like, all right, now we're going to try to win games. Like, the talent has always been there. But it's the Pacers. Like, all they have is Halliburton and Miles Turner. That's it. And it's like, they look like a different team. Like, I'm just impressed with how they've played, man. Like, they look like they could be a playing team.
JT, listen, I'm a huge Halliburton fan.
You obviously not, because you ain't take him.
I appreciate what the Pacers have done, but this answer is easy. It is the Rockets. 2 years ago, the Pacers were 25-57. The Rockets were 20-62. Last year, the Pacers were 35-47. So you see the improvement. The Rockets were 22-60. The Pacers
they wanted to be.
Exactly. That's my point. The Pacers always have had that talent in there.
No, they have not.
Yes, they had Sabonis. They bring in Halliburton. They've got Turner. Those two, you would take those two guys over anybody on the Houston Rockets roster. The last 2 years, you would still take Miles Turner at this point. But the last 2 years, you would take those two guys, Halliburton and Miles Turner, over anyone on the Rockets team. Jabari Smith was looking like a bust, but now all of a sudden they've got
He's still
him.
a bust.
And the other thing is, but they're winning with him. That's my whole point. This is homegrown stuff outside of Fred VanVleet, whereas the Pacers have made trades. They bring in Halliburton, basically a top 5 player in the NBA at this point, maybe in the world. Not even, I take that back, in the world. So now, how is it the Pacers that are more impressive? It's the Rockets. No one can name a starter on that team.
I can name all their starters.
Because you're an NBA guy.
Bro, it's the Pacers, I'm telling you. Like, the Pacers are not a good roster. The Rockets, yes, they have lost more games, but their roster has always been substantially more talented over the past 2 years. They had Kevin Porter Jr.,
oh my God,
Jalen Green, Shane Goon. They had all these guys that were way better than anybody not named Halliburton on the Pacers.
Sabonis was on the Pacers. Oh, we forget Malcolm Brogdon was on the Pacers.
He didn't even play.
Okay, whatever. All right, Jack Potter, fool's gold. You're so ridiculous. You can't admit when you're wrong. Jack Potter, fool's gold. 76ers as title favorites.
Hey, man, that's jackpot. Just because they got rid of James Harden and Ben Simmons. So now Joel Embiid is free to make Germ happy for the rest of the season. Like the two of them is probably the happiest people in the country right now. I mean, it's working. Embiid, Maxey. Let's put it this way: the 76ers have gotten so much better by subtraction that they have somehow figured out how to resurrect Tobias Harris to actually be in like a contributing option on an NBA team. Like he's their number 3 guy, and I'm not so sure him being there is not better than having James Harden. So I gotta buy it just because they got the reigning MVP, and now he's happy and motivated, and they got a new coach, and it seems to be working.
Listen, I agree. Addition by subtraction. I so much want to say it's jackpot because I can't stand James Harden.
Man, come on. You got to say it's jackpot. You're going to get us fired from this network. You know the powers that be. We got to say certain things.
But listen. Give us a shot. Network gave us a shot because we tell the truth.
Give us a shot for real.
We tell the truth. We speak the truth. Listen, what is odd, JT, is when you go to FanDuel and you look at the title odds.
It's such a gambler.
They're 6th. So that leads me to believe Vegas knows something. They're still plus 1,600. Maybe I'm looking at an old one here. They're plus 1,600. This cannot be right. Let me see if there's an updated one. Because I'll tell you what, there's no way. Here we go. Let's go to MGM. Let's see what MGM says here. Because, JT, they're plus 1,600. They have the 6th best odds. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Let me see if I can find. I can't find it. Listen, you know what? After all that, that's jackpot because James Harden's out of there.
Live to survive another week to do this.
James Harden's out of there. Jackpot.
Tired of living in fear.
All right. Forget about it or Fugazi. You know the way it works. We're going to read a statement. If we believe in it, we think it's a hot take, we say forget about it. If we disagree or think it's a garbage take, we're going to say Fugazi. All right. First one. Penn State should move on from James Franklin.
Oh, this is tough. I'm going to say forget about it. And the reason why is I think we're starting to see in the NIL era, being a phenomenal recruiter is just not enough at a big Power 5 program like that anymore. Like, same thing with like a Mario Cristobal. Like, you can get all the recruits, but at the end of the day, you gotta take those recruits and beat these big schools in these big time games. Like James Franklin folding against big time opponents is like almost as automatic as a Steph Curry free throw. Like, I think they might have to move on and see what else they can do.
Listen, it's Fugazi, and I'll tell you why. Couple things.
I know where you're going with this. This is we're about to go down the Manny Diaz road of explanations. I already know, so let me mute myself. Just give the guy more time. He's been there damn near a decade. How much longer do you want James Franklin?
But this is the thing. He made him relevant again. And actually, I take that back. Bill O'Brien made him relevant again after the whole fiasco.
Bill O'Brien made him professional.
And James Franklin upped their game. He took them back to the levels that Penn State fans were used to, right? So that's one. You got to give him credit there. And he's maintained that. He has maintained that because you've got to watch what you wish for. Go ask Texas after they got rid of Mac Brown. Go ask Tennessee after they ran Philip Fulmer out of there. Go ask Nebraska after they moved Bo Pelini out of there when he was winning 9-10 games on the regular. They haven't touched that since. So be careful because even though you have the ego, Penn State, you don't have that cachet anymore like Ohio State, like Alabama does. All right. So go ask some of those teams. Go ask Auburn how every 5 years they got to go get a new coach. Right. So don't fall for that. And we had this same conversation, 3 years ago about Jim Harbaugh. And I think we both said, at least I know I did, don't move on from him.
Yeah, we both said don't move on. Like,
who else is out there that's better?
Michigan
who else
tried
is
to
going
find
to be
so many coaches and it didn't work, and you got one where it does work.
Exactly. And he's going to stay there forever if you want him. And that's a huge difference maker between what you've seen at USC in Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, what you've seen in different places like Jimbo leaving Florida State. James Franklin is now a Penn State lifer. But if you make the decision that he's not, watch what you wish for.
Okay, next one. The Miami Hurricanes are close to turning it around. Forget about it or Fugazi.
Let's forget about it. When we open the season, what did I say would be a good year and an improvement that I would be happy with? The Dawn would be happy with. I said 8-4 and stay close in games against Clemson, UNC, and Florida State. Well, if they win these next two, they'll go 8-4. If they win one of them and win the bowl game, they go 8-5. So they get their 8 wins. On top of that, JT, they beat A&M. They had a halftime lead against UNC until Tyler Van Dyke got injured. They beat Clemson, and then they went down to the wire essentially last second
with the playoff team
against Florida State, undefeated on the road. When we started Emory Williams, who I hope everything's all right with him and that he bounces back and recovers, and well wishes to him. But let's face it, that's a tough spot for that young guy to be in, and the team hung in there. And what Cristobal has shown me, I still question the Georgia Tech game. I still question sometimes the X's and O's. But you and I said it before when we've texted. This team's a much better tackling team, and this team is showing some fight and grit. And that is why I think they're close to turning it around. Now, the question is, how far can Mario take them, and can they get an elite quarterback in here?
Yeah, I agree. Let's forget about it. And look, all those games that you mentioned, if we have any other quarterback and you as a head coach, we probably win those games.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. But
Yeah.
I think the thing that also sticks out to me is this is what people expected to happen last year when Cristobal came. Is like, oh, the first year will be like this 7 to 8 win season where we're like hanging tough and we're just like 1 or 2 recruiting classes away from being maybe a playoff bubble team. But I mean, how could, as a Canes fan, how could you not look at this season and think it's encouraging? Like, we're about to be an 8-win team with no quarterback. Like, our quarterback play has been abysmal all year, and we just lost probably the only quarterback that I would feel comfortable starting for the rest of the year, in Emory Williams. Get well soon to him. But we're doing this with no quarterback play and a coach that's still trying to figure out the X's and O's aspect with Cristobal. Like, this is enough for me. Like, we're definitely on the right path, because I do know that we're gonna continue to get recruits, because that's what Cristobal does.
And 2 things to add. One, another big game with Louisville this week. So I don't want to talk too soon, but if they can keep it close, I'm not saying they got to win, but if they can keep it a 1-score game, lose by 6, lose by 7, like, that's another encouraging sign. And on top of that, JT, I think the identity of this team is they're a running
team,
pound the ball. Like, that's what they should keep
all over again.
That's what they should keep doing all the time until it gets stopped. And they just need to find that quarterback that is a little bit more athletic than Emory and Tyler Van Dyke. That's why I think I texted you. I would have started once I knew Van Dyke was out. I would have went Ja'Curry Brown, and I would have said, we're running RPOs all day. We're running reads all day. Have Florida State figure out how to stop the run. So, all right. Sticking with college football, Brian Kelly has wasted Jaden Daniels' time at LSU.
Oh, facts. That's forget about it. I'm sorry, man. You got a guy that can be considered in the Heisman Trophy race, and you decide that this is the time you want to have maybe the program's worst defense probably I've ever seen since I've been alive. I hate it that the circumstances are unfair. Like, he transferred in and Kelly was a new coach, but I mean, how many guys get a job like that and the quarterback's already there and they didn't bring him with them? So, I mean, yeah, I think he did kind of waste it, because you know how hard it is to going to be replace that guy. Like, you have to assume that whatever quarterback you recruit, and it's not like Brian Kelly has the best track record of recruiting quarterbacks, that he's just going to find this quarterback that can play as good as Jaden does. So I do think he wasted it.
I totally agree. Or no, I'm sorry.
No. Just go with it, man.
It's not. I totally disagree. This is Fugazi for 2 reasons. JT, they're 7-3 this year, 5-0 at home. Like, the other reason is, I guess, to elaborate on that, go look at what he had to do last year, because they didn't have as much talent as some of the other SEC teams. He had to build them back up. That is why the guy before him got fired. And that's why the guy before that guy got fired.
The guy before him got fired because he'd rather go on the beach and chill with chicks than go to work. So.
But 2 coaches got fired, and the talent level was starting to be depleted. The depth was starting to be depleted. He built them back up. And now Daniels helped that. But the fact that they've been competitive, and last year was another really good year, The fact that Brian Kelly was able to do that at LSU is way better than I thought he could do so fast. And so that's why I said it's not wasted. It was going to be wasted no matter what. But Brian Kelly didn't waste it. It's just the coaches before Brian Kelly did this disservice to Jaden Daniels, and he knew what he was getting into when he went to LSU.
Disagree. All right, last one. Michigan will not survive the Jim Harbaugh fallout. Forget about it or Fugazi. I think we're both going to agree on this.
Fugazi. I mean, what's the fallout going to be? You mean that he's not coaching these 3 games? Like, the players are still there. The coaching staff is still there. The recruits are still going to be there. Like, I don't see any. Yeah, I don't see them leaving. And his style of ball right now is better than how Ohio State does it. So I don't see where the fallout comes from the 3-game suspension. Now, if there's something bigger down the line, like a year 6 suspension, or maybe does he leave because
the only fallout he can survive is the death penalty. That's why it's Fugazi. We know that's not happening.
Or does he leave because of the fallout?
I think they can survive if he leaves too.
Okay.
It's Michigan. Like Michigan
okay.
by just waking up.
Well, just watch what you say, because
I'm not saying they'll be better off.
Brady
they can survive.
Well, survive to a Michigan fan and survive to a Miami fan are 2 different things.
All right, let's get on to these. Let's get these in fast.
Weekend predictions. All right, so going into the college weekend, Coach Cassidy last week 6-0. JT 6-0. I mean,
we're out. Bookie. We're gonna have him investigated.
That is why that guy's our college football expert. He's the best college football expert in all of the land. So you should be watching our show just for that. He is 24-11 on the year. You are now second at 21-14, and I'm 1 game behind you at 20-15. All right. So it's close. 4 games separate all of us, because you were 4-2 and I was 5-1 last week. All right.
He's had to mention that, huh?
Louisville at Miami.
I believe in progression, but I don't think this is the week, because we don't got a quarterback picking Louisville.
So you and Coach Cassidy go Louisville. I think there's something brewing in that South Florida water, man. I got the Hurricanes. All right. Georgia at Tennessee.
Ooh, Georgia.
All 3 of us go Georgia. Kansas State at Kansas.
It's tough. They would go Kansas.
Ooh. So both you and Coach Cassidy go Kansas. I'm going K-State. And then the last one, Washington at Oregon State.
I keep betting against these boys. It seems like a team of destiny. I'm going with Washington.
I'm going Washington as well. Cassidy.
With boys. He picked them as a surprise team.
He's going with Oregon State, his guys. All right. So let's look at the NFL. Only got 3 games on the slate that are really worthwhile here. So let's do a quick rundown. I got to get the records here. I apologize. Let me get the records here real.
How far behind are you? The fact that you don't have that shit queued up lets you know he might be behind.
I mean, listen, you had a rough week last week. You were 1-3, and that's going to put you under 500. And I was actually, yikes, I was actually 0-4.
Still better than you. That's all I need to know.
So Kendall with a good week last week, 3-1. For the year, he has opened up a 6-game lead on both of us. He's 19-8. And we're both 13-14. So, first game, the Thursday night game, Bengals at Ravens. Who do you have?
Give me Lamar.
All 3 of us go Ravens. Steelers at Browns.
Ooh, it's tough. Deshaun's back to playing good football. I'm gonna go Browns, man. I don't trust you guys on the road.
Cleveland. All three of us say Cleveland. Eagles at Chiefs.
Now, this is the game I want to see. On the Eagles. I think it's time for the Eagles to go in the Arrowhead and just shut everybody up.
And that's exactly why I'm.
Time out. No, hold on. I reserve the right to change my answer if Taylor Swift does not go to the game. If she goes to the game, I'm picking the Chiefs. If not, then I'm picking the Eagles.
No, you can't do that.
Yep. I
No,
gotta
you
have
can't.
I gotta have a caveat.
No, we always say this to guests where they come in. If Kendall or Connor say, "Oh, well, if so and so is playing,"
if Taylor Swift is at the game, that's not fair. That's
if
not
they
fair.
say-
That means
no.
Travis Kelce's going off, and that means the refs are going off.
But
too in
the
Chiefs'
injuries,
favor.
no.
That's
So
not even fair.
No, you've got the Eagles. Listen, does Kansas City playing at home? Yup. Do they still got Andy Reid?
Yeah,
Yup. Do they still got Mahomes? Yup. Do they still got Travis Kelce? Yup. I'm going
Travis
Kansas
Kelce ain't
City.
the same unless
I'm-
Taylor Swift is in the
I'm
crowd.
going
So if she's not there, I'm not
Kansas-
worried about him.
I'm going Kansas City. And yes, got to show this from our guy Scotty, Coach C, the GOAT, and a champ. That is right. So I want to give a quick shout out to the Landon varsity football team, conference co-champs. Proud of those guys. Great job. Enjoy the off season. So JT, great episode to all the fans and listeners out there. Thank you for listening. Remember, you can subscribe to us on all of the major platforms. And remember, if you like what we do, leave us a 5-star review. And JT,
If you don't like what we do,
leave us a 5-star review. And remember to also like and subscribe to Give Us a Shot Network. You can also follow us, our handle on social media, JT and the Don. We can be found on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok.
Don't worry, he'll get it. He'll get it.
Did I get all of those? I got them all.
You got them, but your delivery.
I got them all.
Towards your progress.
I was being very deliberate. All right, JT, great episode. Enjoy the week. Big games coming up. Hopefully the U pulls off the upset. And until the next episode after they win, see ya.
Peace.